myself in a bit, but I think most of you will agree with me that this news clip from Mika Brzezinski this morning is beyond disgusting. The way she trashes our president and then turns around and venerates these incompetent European leaders. It's just really upsetting that so many of our fellow citizens have genuine contempt for our country now, but that is the reality. That's why we have this channel, so that we can try and point out the absurdity in that belief system. So let's go through the clip. It's for sure going to piss off most of you, but stay with me here because this is important.
World leaders were in Paris over the weekend to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. President Trump, however, chose not to attend several events. On Saturday, the president and First Lady were scheduled to visit the Ain Marne American Cemetery for a solemn remembrance of the Battle of Belleau Wood, where the U.S. lost about 1,000 troops in one of the most legendary battles in U.S. Marine history. But the commander-in-chief canceled that visit, citing the weather as a reason.
Okay, so this is some indefensible fake news right here, and not just by Mika, but by the entire left-wing media establishment. Lefties around the world went off on President Trump about this. The French army even tweeted this out to troll President Trump. I can't read French, but the translation is, "It is raining, but it is not serious," and then they got the laughing emoji. So, I mean, how juvenile is that for a national army that's supposed to be apolitical? I hope Trump remembers this the next time they want help from our superior army. And then this tweet from Ben Rhodes was particularly infuriating for me. You might recall him as the speechwriter turned foreign policy advisor for Obama. He's best known for producing the monstrosity known as the Iran deal. So first he tweeted, "I helped plan all of President Obama's trips for 8 years. There's always a rain option, always." Yes, Ben, of course there's always a backup option, but perhaps the backup plan isn't always practical. There's a lot of factors to consider, especially when you're a guest in someone else's country. And then Ben also retweeted this from Justin Trudeau, adding, "This is what an actual leader does." So I don't even want to comment on this. If any of you are confused enough to consider Justin Trudeau a good leader, I will just refer you to this. This right here is all you need to know about Justin.
Maternal love is the love that's going to change the future of mankind. So we'd like you to look
we like to say people kind, not necessarily mankind, because it's more inclusive.
There we go, exactly. Yes, thank you.
All right, so as I was saying, the media immediately seized this opportunity to paint Trump as uncaring for the military, even though he's the consensus pro-military president in my lifetime. And then later on, after more information came in, they had to backpedal and issue corrections, but nobody noticed because the damage was already done. So this is ABC's correction. In a story November 10th about President Donald Trump canceling a planned visit to a cemetery for Americans killed in World War I, the Associated Press reported that the Secret Service determines when it's safe to fly Marine One, the president's helicopter. The story should have made clear that the Marine Corps and White House military office make the determination to ground the president's helicopter due to bad weather. The military office then presents the recommendation to the White House in collaboration with the Secret Service. So basically, Trump followed the recommendation of his security force not to use Marine One. And with regards to the backup option, Sarah Sanders later made a statement to reporters that noted the near zero visibility and how a motorcade on short notice would have required closing substantial portions of area roadways. President Trump did not want to cause that kind of unexpected disruption to the city and its people. She also told NBC, "We can't shut the city down for 4 hours for him to go there and back, plus the asset issue," referring to U.S. security resources. Okay, so these are the circumstances that went into Trump's decision to stay back, and it sounds reasonable enough to me. I will expand on this a bit later, but for now, let's continue with the clip.
He did speak at a different American cemetery on Sunday and had this message for a World War II veteran in attendance.
Frank DeVita. Thank you, Frank. Thank you very much. You look so comfortable up there under shelter as we're getting drenched. You're very smart people.
Yeah, so what's the problem here, Mika? Trump is making a lighthearted joke with the veteran. He does this a lot at ceremonies because he likes making people laugh. I mean, these guys are just grasping at straws to make Trump look bad. It's so obvious what kind of narrative they're trying to construct. It's completely shameless.
The weather did not stop other world leaders from paying their respects at other historic sites across France, including Canada's Justin Trudeau, who paid tribute to the Canadian troops who lost their lives at a battlefield in northeastern France.
Again, nothing at all against the fallen Canadian vets, but this guy is an intersectional idiot, so naturally he's a superhero for Mika and her leftist fans. It's just gross.
Trump also skipped the Paris Peace Forum, opting to fly home early instead. And yesterday, while the other world leaders walked shoulder to shoulder together to the Arc de Triomphe, President Trump decided to go alone.
Good.
Russia's Putin also went separately, and you can see in this snapshot the difference in reaction between Emmanuel Macron, Angela Merkel, and Trump upon Putin's arrival.
More fake news. It doesn't stop. This example is a lie of omission, so Putin was going in for a handshake to Melania, as you can see here, and even Angela Merkel is stretching her Botox to get a smile through. You know, I'm not a fan of Putin either, Mika, but what do you expect Trump to do in that situation? Try to be a little bit reasonable.
In his remarks, President Macron warned against nationalism, a label President Trump has recently embraced.
As the very opposite of the selfishness of a nation which only looks after its own interests, because patriotism is the exact opposite of nationalism. Nationalism is a betrayal of patriotism by saying, our interests first, who cares about the others? We erase what a nation holds dearest, what gives it life, what makes it great, and what is essential, its moral values. And to ruin this hope by giving in to the fascination for withdrawal, isolationism, violence, and domination would be a grave error that future generations would very rightly make us responsible for.
All right, so good news, that is the last clip I'm going to show. I will spare you Morning Joe's follow-up commentary. It's every bit as terrible as you would expect. And I don't know, this made no sense to me at all, what Macron said about nationalism being a betrayal of patriotism. Nationalism must mean something entirely different in French, because the only way that statement could possibly make sense is if something got lost in translation. In English, and I hate that I have to keep reiterating this basic definition, but in English, nationalism means love of country, pride in country, aka patriotism, right? It means putting the interests of your citizens and your values first, and then helping others if and when we can. And that's exactly what we do. We've been doing that. We do more than anyone else. We pay more than anyone else. So if Macron and what do you call a guy who's into much older women? It's not cougar, right? It's actually, I don't even know if there's a term, but let's just call him a cub. If this French cub really wants to demonstrate his commitment to helping non-citizens, he should start by helping non-citizens of allied nations and increase France's NATO contribution, just like Trump has been demanding. I do think they increased it to 2% of GDP earlier this year after Trump made it a big issue, but raise it even further and then maybe I'll take the cub more seriously, because right now he just sounds like every other European leader spewing the same BS globalist nonsense that too many people are unfortunately falling for. And to finish this up, let's return to the motorcade issue, and let's be perfectly honest here. If Trump decided to go ahead with the motorcade and shut down the city for 4 or 5 hours, is there any doubt that lefties in the media would have found a way to criticize him for that? At minimum, we would have heard about the poor helicopter planning. They would have said, oh, all this money you're spending on the military and you don't even have a chopper that can get through a little bit of rain. Or maybe they would have found some Frenchman who wasn't able to get to work on time or missed his child's birth or something and then blame that on Trump. You know, it doesn't matter what Trump does, they will find a way to criticize him. They have a mandate to bash Trump every single day, no matter what. They have to find a way to criticize him, and it's really unfortunate that so many of our fellow citizens can't see that. They actually believe this nonsense, and they need to understand that regardless of whether or not Trump has done something that legitimately deserves criticism and negative press, the media has to put something negative out. There's a huge demand for it. It's very easy to manufacture when the majority of media outlets are in on the game, and it just makes it impossible for people to discriminate fake news from real news. Anyways, I'm pretty sure I'm preaching to the choir here, so I'm going to leave it at that. Do us a favor and share this video if you liked it, since YouTube is very unlikely to promote it in the algorithm. Also, if you have a Twitter, we would appreciate it if you followed us on there. I'll put the link below. The reason is we may have to ask you guys at some point to help us get YouTube's attention on Twitter. They've been taking forever to reevaluate us for monetization. It's actually been months of demonetization now, and they're still ignoring all of our messages, but we've learned that some channels have had success by getting their followers to retweet at YouTube, so we might ask